This is Sports Overdrive with Taylor Jones.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Overdrive on July the 11th, 2014. My name is Taylor Jones, and we're so thankful that you have decided to take time out of your day to listen to us as we give you the latest sports news from around Georgia, Alabama, and the rest of the world. Our first guest this afternoon is a writer for the Athens Banner-Herald as well as online Athens.com, covering the University of Georgia football team as well as other University of Georgia athletic programs. It's Marc Weiszer. We joined him earlier this morning as we talked about Georgia football and other things going on around the University of Georgia this week. More of a Georgia Bulldogs preview, if you will, is what we're doing this afternoon. So without any further ado, here's Marc Weiszer from the Athens Banner-Herald on Sports Overdrive. Joining Sports Overdrive this afternoon is the Georgia Bulldog beat writer for the Athens Banner-Herald and online Athens.com. It's Marc Weiszer. And Marc, how are things in Dogtown this morning?
Pretty good. Getting cranked up next week for media days, but getting ready for the preseason coming up.
Georgia football ended the 2013 season 8-5, a season that was plagued by injury, and now new freshmen are coming in, including Nick Chubb, Lorenzo Carter, Shadow Fenting, among others. Who are some of the true freshmen or transfers that are coming in that you think will make an impact early for Georgia in 2014?
I guess you probably have to start with Fenting just because of the need that Georgia has in the secondary after the big shakeup this offseason with a couple guys transferring, and Josh Harvey-Clemens, who was dismissed, and Trey Matthews also dismissed. You had Shaq Wiggins transferring to Louisville, disenchanted kind of with what was going on in the secondary. Then so you need a guy with a little bit of college experience in Fenting, can play. Cornerback probably has decent size, 6'2", 200 listed, so maybe Pruitt has the flexibility to play him at safety if need be, but there's not a lot of experience back there. So some of these young guys that they recruited, like a Dominic Sanders and a couple others, will certainly get a quick shot to play.
One of the best quarterbacks that the Southeastern Conference has ever seen ended his career in probably one of the worst ways imaginable by an ACL tear in the Kentucky game late last season, in Aaron Murray. He threw for over 13,000 yards, 121 touchdowns, and only 41 interceptions in his career. And now steps in Hudson Mason. So what's the vibe around Athens surrounding Hudson, and what can college football fans around the nation expect to see out of him this season?
It's a pretty positive vibe. I mean, you have a guy that's waited in the wings, and the fact that he got to play, start 2 games last season, clean up the Kentucky game when Murray got injured, really gave him some invaluable experience that he wasn't counting on. That turned out to probably be a good thing for Georgia, obviously, for this season. Coming back from 20-0 down at Georgia Tech, and then playing in some pretty miserable conditions in the Gator Bowl in a loss to Nebraska. So Georgia knows what they have with Mason in terms of a guy that knows the system. It's still to be determined, if he can lift them into that championship level. He's got playmakers around him on offense that, if they're healthy, he should be able to be plugged in and really, kind of move the offense probably at a little bit faster pace than what Murray brought.
And one of the big questions surrounding Georgia football is defense this season. We spoke earlier about Shaq Wiggins transferring, Josh Harvey-Clemens and Trey Matthews. They're no longer on the team. But there are positives, as in Jeremy Pruitt coming in from Florida State and also Tracy Rocker coming in from the Tennessee Titans of the NFL. They joined the coaching staff. And we'll discuss the line and linebackers in just a little bit. But as far as the secondary is concerned, who will be the main player or players who will step up and get the secondary going?
Damian Swan's a senior, started a couple years, had a better sophomore year than he did as a junior, is the most experienced guy easily back there. And they need him to play better than he did last year, especially with all those departures. Corey Moore's also a senior, has starting experience, and Quincy Mauger as well at safety. There's some unknown guys. Walk-on Aaron Davis, who ended the spring as a starter at cornerback. Whether that sticks, remains to be seen. A guy like Sheldon Dawson as well. And we mentioned some of the young guys that they're going to be needing to count on that they signed. There's several of them. One of them, Malcolm Parrish, cornerback out of Brooks County, Also another guy that could be counted on to be an impact guy back there. Shaq Jones was a defensive back that was committed at one point to South Alabama, and when Georgia hired one of their new assistant coaches, the defensive coordinator from there, he switched his commitment to Georgia. So they've got a lot of young talent back there that they hope they can develop.
Now on to the rest of the defense. Jordan Jenkins, Rameek Wilson, Leonard Floyd, they were named to the Bednarik watch list, and those three, along with Ray Drew and Amarlo Herrera, were named to the preseason All-SEC team by Athlon Sports. A ton of media attention will be focused on the Dogs' defense this season, but what will be key in Georgia having a successful season defensively?
That's a good question. I think you have to say, we talked about it already, but it's going to have to be the development of that secondary. I mean, there's some known commodities at linebacker with those guys you mentioned. You can throw Marlo Herrera in there, who wasn't on that watch list. I think he was third in the conference in tackles last year. So they have one of the most talented linebacking cores around, but they need to be sound on the back end. So I think the development of those guys, the ability not to give up the big play, which obviously haunted them last year, will be key. And if they can find a rotation on the defensive line, successful rotation with mixing and matching and doing that, which there wasn't much of that a couple of years ago. Last year more so, and I think you'll see that as well with probably a more undersized nose tackle than they had a couple of years ago than they went to the championship game.
Marc Weiszer from the Athens Banner-Herald joining Sports Overdrive this afternoon. And Todd Gurley, he's already become a favorite for the Heisman race, along with a few others in the SEC. And Keith Marshall's looking to make a strong comeback following an injury. With Keith coming back, how much has he been able to do as far as strength and conditioning summer workouts are concerned? And also, how has Todd Gurley looked during summer workouts?
Yeah, I mean, we're not out there watching the summer workouts like we are in the spring and in the preseason, but the reports have been positive on Keith Marshall, coming back from his injury. He's expected to be good to go in the preseason, probably practicing without limitations. Gurley had a terrific spring when there was an expectation coming in that maybe he would take it easy after, an injury-plagued sophomore year, but he really went after it harder than most folks probably expected and kind of wasn't coddled at all, even though he was, preseason All-American type. So I think Gurley's going to take the leadership of that position now with some really talented freshman backs coming in, and the combination of Gurley and Marshall, and then you add in Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb. It's pretty scary how good they could be back there.
And this story broke a few weeks ago, and it made a ton of Bulldog fans happy. It was the announcement of the Georgia-Notre Dame series to be played in 2017 and 2019. So what are your thoughts on the new series that was announced, and if there are any details that you know, what are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. Georgia kind of scaled back these type of matchups when they switched athletic directors. When Greg McGarity came on from Damon Evans, so they had a series with Oregon that was canceled. They had some games with Louisville that also was scrapped. They did play the one game against Boise State in the Georgia Dome on a neutral site, and the Clemson series was already set up. But, there was some question about, whether these types of games, actually one other game I need to mention, I guess, was the Ohio State series, which McGarity did go forward with, but Ohio State was the one that pulled out on that end. But obviously you have, two national brand programs. Obviously Notre Dame has this contract with NBC. They have their own network showing as the premier team there. It's exciting for Georgia. They'll be in that type of window on a national stage, and then just, classic matchup of two power programs. In terms of the tickets, that kind of thing, it's pretty even distribution, somewhere in the 7,500 range. I don't have it in front of me, but obviously Georgia's going to need their fans to come up with some big money probably to get their hands on those tickets in South Bend. It's kind of a dream game that fans can look forward to scheduling years out in advance.
And we mentioned Aaron Murray earlier, but he, along with tight end Arthur Lynch, were drafted in this season's NFL draft. And have you spoken with Aaron lately? Have you heard any reports? How is he doing heading into this season after his knee injury? And also, who are some of the other Dogs who went undrafted, but they're making their journey into the NFL?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Aaron since draft time. I know he, from what I've read out of reports out of Kansas City, he hasn't had any limitations with his practicing in their mini camps, their OTAs. So things look positive for Aaron, I guess, to get groomed, in a backup role and maybe have a chance in a year or two to maybe win that starting job, depending on what happens, with the guy in front of him. In terms of other guys, Lynch was drafted by the Dolphins. It was a down year for Georgia after having so many drafted the year before. A few guys hooked on with the Dolphins as free agents in some other places. I think Garrison Smith down there at the defensive end, Rentavious Wooten, the wide receiver. We'll see, which of these guys might stick at other places. The rosters, are pretty big now, like in the 90 range. They'll have to trim down, in the weeks ahead, and whether those guys can land jobs, we'll see. But there's usually, one or two Georgia guys that do make it as free agents, and I'd probably expect that again this time around.
Clemson, Tennessee, and Auburn are three huge games that will be played between the hedges this fall. And when you look at the other games on the UGA schedule, what are games that you believe SEC fans should keep their eye on?
You're talking about on the Georgia schedule?
Yes.
It's interesting because you have for the first 5 games at home, which is not unusual for Georgia's schedule too much, but back-to-back road games in October at Missouri, at Arkansas. Arkansas game being in Little Rock. I know Rick has talked in the past about having to fly back from road games and then getting ready the next week. So it'll be a little unusual to have to fly out to Missouri, come back, turn around, and fly out to Arkansas again. One of those two games could sneak up on Georgia, and Missouri obviously won in Athens last year when Georgia was decimated by injuries, and that turned out to be a tough game in Columbia a couple years ago. Arkansas obviously had a disaster of a season last year. How much better they can be, we'll see. But one of those two games could be the kind of under the radar game that could surprise someone.
And final question, Chris Conley, he unleashed a side of himself that not many people knew that he had by directing a fan film dedicated to Star Wars, and it's probably one of the greatest things I've seen this month. But we'll let you play critic here really quick. What are your thoughts on the film, and would you like to see a sequel?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday because I wrote up something on our website about the thing, so I figured I'd spend a half hour watching it before. I'm not going to give a film review of it. I really haven't. I'm not a huge Star Wars guy. I mean, I saw the originals back in the day, a couple decades ago, I guess it was. So I don't really have much to compare it to, and obviously it's not the type of Hollywood production. We're not talking about a multi-million-dollar project, but for a guy that's in college that has a busy life already at UGA with football, and he serves on a lot of student-athlete committees. It's a pretty special project that he did with a lot of friends and folks around Athens, and very good quality production, and I'm sure that the people that are into Star Wars will turn it on and really enjoy watching it. And obviously, Conley invested a lot of time and effort into it, and I think that needs to be applauded.
Marc Weiszer joining Sports Overdrive this Friday. And Mark, it was a pleasure having you on the show today to discuss Georgia football and even a little Star Wars talk there at the end. And I'm getting more and more excited for football season and anticipating an exciting football season from the Dogs after talking to you after this discussion. So thank you again for taking time out of your day to join the show.
Sure. Anytime. Good to be with you.
And that was Marc Weiszer, UGA football and basketball beat writer for the Athens Banner-Herald and online Athens.com. We previewed the Georgia football season for 2014 and also talked a little Star Wars and the Star Wars fan film that Chris Conley, wide receiver for the Bulldogs, shot and produced in Athens that was released earlier this week. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, just go online, go to Google, Bing, whatever you use, and type in Chris Conley Star Wars. You will not be disappointed. We'll have more show in just a few moments. This is Sports Overdrive.